And there are a number of other Yoga Nidra scripts and apps and sources around the internet, in particular on YouTube, that are zero cost that you could use if the Reverie app is outside your price range or is not preferable to you, etc. When I wake up in the middle of the night, it's usually to use the restroom. I'll go use the restroom. I'll keep the lights as dim as possible. I'll get back into bed. And if I find that it's easy to fall asleep, great, I'm asleep. And if not, then I will generally plug in the Reverie app. They have a fallback asleep hypnosis. And 99 times out of 100, I'm back asleep within minutes and I don't wake up until morning. Now, very briefly, I just want to touch on some tools that are very commonly used by many people out there. And believe it or not, there is peer-reviewed science on things like eye masks. Do eye masks improve your ability to stay asleep? And indeed, they do, provided they are not too tight and provided that the room is cool enough. Why? Well, eye masks cover the upper half of your face, which is where glabrous skin is localized. Remember, palms of the hands, bottoms of the feet, glabrous skin on the face. So a lot of people who wear eye masks will wake up because they're too warm if the room is too warm. So if you're going to use an eye mask to keep light out, definitely make sure the room and your sleeping environment and your bed are cool enough in order for you to stay asleep. In addition, I get a lot of questions about earplugs. Here's the deal with earplugs. Some people find that earplugs are very beneficial because, of course, they prevent the entrance of sound into the ear that could wake us up. But some people find that the sound of their own beating of their own heart can be disruptive, and they get a sort of humming in their head when they have those earplugs in. I'm one such person, although I have family members that like using earplugs when they sleep. So it's really up to you. You have to see whether or not those earplugs help or disrupt your sleep. For me, they're no good. For some people, they really enjoy them. I don't use an eye mask unless I'm sleeping in a really bright environment or I need to sleep on a plane and things of that sort. Other tools that I'll just mention that have peer-reviewed research to support them: elevating your feet either with a pillow or by elevating the end of your bed by about 3 to 5 degrees can be really beneficial for increasing the depth of sleep because of the so-called lymphatic washout. This is the movement of and circulation of fluids in your brain at night that lead to more wakefulness and actually can improve cognitive function and a number of other things related to brain health. There's one caveat to that. For people that suffer from acid reflux, having your ankles elevated above your chest or above your heart in the middle of the night can actually exacerbate that acid reflux. You want to do the opposite. You want to actually elevate the head side of your bed by about 3 to 5 degrees. Now, one of the common causes of sleep disruption that has tremendously detrimental effects is so-called sleep apnea. So this is basically bouts of suffocation or lack of oxygenation during sleep. This is particularly the case for people that are very heavy set, and that heavy set could be from obesity. It could also be heavy set from having too much muscle. A lot of people who are carrying too much muscle will actually have sleep apnea without realizing it. Sleep apnea is actually very dangerous. It's associated with a number of cardiovascular issues. It's associated with sexual dysfunction. It's associated with issues with cognition. Sleep apnea is bad. A lot of people will have to use the PAP, which is it's a device. It looks like a sort of like a snorkel mask or dive mask. It's a whole apparatus that people will go to sleep with. However, many people can relieve themselves of sleep apnea, provided it's not too serious, and can sleep much better. In fact, I think all people can sleep much better if they train themselves to be nose breathers while they sleep. There are a lot of reasons to be a nose breather unless you are breathing very hard due to exercise or talking or eating. That was all covered in James Nestor's book, Breath, The New Science of a Lost Art. It's been covered in a number of different podcasts. We've talked about it on this podcast as well. It's a good idea to be a nose breather unless you need to mouth breathe. And it's a great idea. It's a superb idea to be a nose breather in sleep. And one way to really get good at that is to take a little bit of medical tape and to tape your mouth shut before going to sleep. You heard me right. Put some medical tape over your mouth and force yourself to nose breathe during sleep. It also prevents snoring in most cases, really offsets sleep apnea. Sleep apnea, again, being a very serious health concern. I should also mention as a tool that if you have a hard time being a nose breather in sleep, you can try doing your cardiovascular exercise, at least the lower intensity cardiovascular exercise, through purely nasal breathing. And one way to do that, again, is to tape your mouth shut or put a gulp of water in your mouth, but don't actually swallow that mouthful of water, or to use a mouthpiece or just deliberately keep your mouth closed and insist on breathing through your nose. Most people find that when they start doing cardiovascular exercise that way, it's really challenging at first, but over time they actually can feel quite calm and still can generate a lot of physical effort purely using nose breathing. The reason that doing nose breathing during cardiovascular exercise translates to being a nose breather during sleep is that your sinuses actually can dilate. They're plastic, and over time, plastic meaning they're malleable, that is, and they can become wider. You're not going to get giant nostrils. Don't worry about it. Your airways within your skull, because that's what the sinuses really are, these little passages within the skull, and of course within the nasal passages, will dilate and will allow you to breathe more easily through your nose. But for those of you that are waking up in the middle of the night, breathing on your back, or your partner is telling you that, or other people are telling you that, or you're that person on the plane with your mouth hanging open and drooling and your mouth breathing, terrible, terrible, terrible for health reasons and other reasons. Put some medical tape over your mouth. Learn to be a nose breather during sleep. Your sleep will improve, and your daytime feelings of wakefulness and focus will improve. Your cardiovascular health will improve, and on and on and on. So now we've largely covered the tools that one could use to get and stay asleep. And we talked about exercise, we talked about temperature, we talked about supplements, and we talked about, of course, keeping the sleeping environment both cool and as dark as possible. I do want to mention a couple of broad contour tools that will impact your ability to sleep really well on a consistent basis. And the one that impacts the most number of people is weekends. Turns out that most everybody feels the impulse to sleep in on the weekend, especially if they've been out late the night before. However, the data show that keeping relatively consistent sleep and wake times is really going to enhance the quality and depth of your sleep. So if you stay out late one night, sure, you might allow yourself to sleep in an extra hour or so, but you should really try to avoid sleeping in longer than an hour beyond your normal wake-up time. That's right. If you normally get 8 hours of sleep and you wake up at 7 a.m., probably okay to wake up at 8 a.m. on the weekend or after a night out the night before, but try not to sleep until 11 or noon thinking that you're going to catch up on your sleep or that's better than waking up at a consistent time.